Hello and welcome to episode 4 of the Western Bulldogs podcast, Barclay Street. That'd be hashtag Barclay Street, brought to you by our great friends, Mercedes-Benz Vans. Just need a little help from your friends, Bont, as we say every week. How are you, man? What's going on?
I'm going well, mate. I'm good. Happy Easter to you, mates.
Easter edition of Barclay Street.
Did the Easter Bunny make it?
The Easter Bunny did make it.
Yeah, that's good. We love that.
Easter Bunny's a bit more generous to my kids than he was to me when I was growing up. Did you indulge? Yeah, I know
a little bit.
You're a finely tuned professional athlete, but
not really though.
Have you got a bit of a sweet tooth?
I do. I'll tell you what, my favourite chocolate has been probably recently is the caramel one that Cadbury brought out recently. Hope that shouldn't offend any of our sponsors unless Cadbury want to jump on board at some point. It'd be great for them to partner us with it.
League footballers are very commercially, not just always on.
It's drummed into us. It's kicking, it's handballing, and then it's your ability to attain partners. So no, it was good. I was home. I spoke to my family, so it was a pretty good sort of opportunity just to catch up with them and spend a bit of time touching base, and then obviously couldn't be completely together in the current sort of side of things, but it was a good couple of days. How about you, man? How was your sort of Easter and any festivities you could do at home with the kids?
The kids stuff worked well. We did the Easter egg hunt and the Easter Bunny, of course, did his thing, and there were plenty of sweets and scattered around. There was like a little treasure hunt and clues and stuff. That kept the kids busy for about 45 minutes, and ran there to fill in the other 23 hours and 15 minutes of that day. And
it's a bit like that. You know what it is?
The next day.
Do you remember that show with Kiefer Sunderland? I think it was Kiefer, that was like 24. Do you remember that?
I never watched
that.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Basically, it would go every sort of few hours. It would show up with the time, and it's just dip, 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 just counting down. Yeah. It is very much like that. Like, training in the morning takes up a chunk of time, and for a lot of people, they probably go for a walk or do something to stay active. And I'm sure you've got your hands a bit more full than I do with your kids. But it must also be great to sort of spend time with them. Sometimes that you wouldn't normally, probably long periods of time that you might not have. So I guess you'd probably appreciate that.
Yeah. There's nothing like they talk about quality of time, but it's so much of it's just quantity of time. So much of the good bits just happen by accident because you're just around. The little in jokes and we've got a big quantity of time at the moment. But we did have the Murphys. We do my side of the family. We do a Easter Thursday, Holy Thursday dinner. Like that's our sort of tradition every year. So that was a bit different this year. So we had the Zoom going with all the different. So how many? 4 families.
Yep.
So that was kind of it was good, but it also it sort of set off. The kids got a bit flat after that because it was like that's what we would be doing for Easter. So that's just it's a little reminder of the things we would normally be doing that we're not quite doing.
Yeah, it does give you an appreciation, and not that you probably ever took it for granted, but it does show you how important just being able to be together with family and friends and that face-to-face side of things from an emotional connection point of view of how good it is that we can do things like that. I think it gives you it'll give everyone a new level of appreciation, understanding for that emotional side of connection and face-to-face stuff. So
absence makes the heart grow fonder.
You've always been good with words, haven't you?
Always been good at stealing other people's words.
Yes. What is it? Imitation is the best form of flattery.
Yeah, that's right. Something like that. Close enough.
Yeah. Is that part of it? You just
Yeah.
Right. Well, there you go.
Should we address the elephant in the room, or rather the pooch in the room?
Puppy in the room. Yes, I reckon we should. For the listeners out there, I'd like to introduce you to.
We've actually got a dog. We have.
We have. This is Maya, everyone. Maya. She's a Kelpie, purebred Kelpie. And she is, she's very cute. She's keeping me busy talking about quantity of time and how we're allocating it at the minute. So she came over the weekend. My sister had been doing a lot of research for me. So she was sort of way ahead of me in terms of sort of the different, people to go through and breeders and whatnot. So it was a bit of a sort of surprise that we sort of had to go and get her over the weekend. She's going great. She spent her first night sort of sleeping not next to me last night, which was a bit loud and a bit of a racket, but so far so good. And she's gorgeous. She's been really good, and I thought obviously we've spoken about it, the timing wise, and good chance to obviously teacher and trainer sort of properly being home a little bit more. So thank you everyone who put their thoughts together about what dog and the poll, and I did take that into consideration.
Well, just on that.
Yes.
Did you? I mean, let's go to the hard statistics. We put it out. There, courtesy of Mercedes-Benz vans, but we put it out on the socials, and the numbers aren't kind. They
really.
So German Shepherd polled 14%. Not a tough loss for Germans.
Yep.
Kelpie, 15%. Just hold.
Okay. Yep.
Border Collie, 35%.
Wow. Yep. Big favourite.
And the Bulldog, 36%.
Yeah.
So I put it to you, Marcus.
Yep.
Why do you hate Bulldogs and their support?
Oh, you media folk always looking for a headline. If you're talking about us footballers and sponsorships and partners, well, you blokes and girls in the media are just constantly looking for a little bit of clickbait. I think you've become way too accustomed to that chair and asking questions from that position.
I'm just writing the headline: Bontempelli puts down Bulldogs.
I love all Bulldogs, the Bulldogs in general. But the Kelpie stole me heart as of the weekend. So
I'll let you off. I mean,
don't you have a myself? Yeah, don't you have a Kelpie, Bob? Yep. Yeah. And you were heavily persuasive in terms of down the Kelpie road. So
dogs.
Yeah. So I'm really happy about it, and it's going to be a really cool sort of relationship, I think, for me to build, as all probably dog owners do with their pups. I'm looking forward to the ensuing weeks and months with her. So
I've known you for quite a while now, and your signature, your trademark is to be calm in traffic, amidst the chaos, just to sort of cruise through and be able to find your way through easily. Never seen you flustered. Never.
Yeah. But
I'm getting a slight. There's a hint of flustered.
Really? Am I twitching? Is my eye twitching?
Well, I know. Brand new puppies can be. They can be a bit of work, and they can upset limbs and the way we're setting our ways a little, maybe.
Yeah. She's breaking me. I can already sense it. I'm going to be a broken man. I mean, last night, like I said, I'll probably pop her in the laundry to sleep sort of from now on, and slowly, I want to obviously raise her properly, but teach her obviously the right ways, and I'm sort of open to some advice on that as well to the people out there who think they might have a story or two or some things that can help during the process.
So our dog trainer, guru, spiritual advisor,
dog whisperer,
is the sister of Western Bulldogs employee Liz. Our Liz.
Oh, Lizzie Phillips. Yes. Yeah. Oh, amazing. Okay. Well, that's perfect.
Yeah.
We've got such a good community of people, don't we? It's always good. There's always someone you can go to.
Get in touch with Lizzie Phillips.
Yeah, that would be definitely something to do, because I might need some help at times, I reckon.
So, Mike, you've already named Maya. Can you give us any background to the name, or just?
Well, there's definitely some background. So one of my favourite sort of movies growing up was it was called Eight Below. I don't know if you're familiar with it at all, but it's Paul Walker sort of film where he's a sort of a guide with a bunch of sort of snow dogs that drag, I can't remember what the name of their role is, but they've got basically a pack of dogs who drag the sleds through the snow, and for I think it's based in sort of Antarctica, but essentially the dogs get left there because of severe weather, and the people have to be sort of moved out. And the lead dog of the pack, her name was Maya, and it always stuck with me probably since a young age, that I really like the name and obviously the sentiment in the movie. So that's where I sort of picked the name up, and it's seems to be sticking so far. So yeah, all good.
Cool, I like it. Good, not bad. My challenge to the Bulldog supporters is, can they turn Maya into some kind of Bulldog reference? How can you get Maya into a Bulldog reference? The only thing I could come up with was our iconic trainer, Paul Maher.
Yeah.
Paul Meyer. So
that's okay. All right, how is Paul Meyer going?
Well, people are creative. So how can you turn Mayer into? Are you calling him Meyer or Mayer?
No, definitely Meyer. Strictly Meyer.
Okay. Yep. Geez, bristled up a bit there. You are stressed out.
Is it hot in here? I'm getting hot.
Let's hold fire for a little bit, because I want to bring in our next guest. And the universe works in very mysterious ways, Marcus. And I asked Darce, former captain, club legend Luke Darcy, if he'd come on the podcast today, unbeknownst to me, that there is some news around Luke and the club.
Really?
Scheduled for today, to be announced today. So Barclay Street, we are breaking.
We are breaking. Oh, this is huge. This podcast just goes from one strength to another. This is massive.
We are breaking news, making headlines, and we're going to have a bit of fun as well. But let's take a little break, and we'll come back and we'll interrogate the big ruckman, Luke Darcy.
Yes, let's do it.
See you in a minute.
See you, mate.
Welcome back to the Western Bulldogs podcast, Barclay Street. That is hashtag Barclay Street. Get that on your socials. The socials are going mad. Brought to you by Mercedes-Benz Vans. It's a big honour for us, Bont, isn't it? To have some Bulldog royalty join the podcast for episode 4. And it's a 200-game champion, former captain, MVP of the league, one of the shortest fuses the game's ever seen. Almost won a Brownlow medal. Almost could have. We'll get to that a little bit later. Luke Darcy, Darce, welcome to the podcast, mate. Thanks for having us.
Well, the great honour and great privilege is mine to be amongst two of the most loved people in Bulldog history. Is a great honour. So I feel very privileged to be speaking to you both today.
So you and Bont never played together, obviously, but have you spoken before? Have you guys hung out before?
Had the privilege of catching a little bit of time with Bont, not a lot, but certainly as an admirer from afar. And mate, I've got a household of 4 kids, and there is. I was actually last night thinking of you, because Max is our youngest. He's 9 years of age, and he's got a. It's a cushion in the shape of a Staffy Terrier, and that Staffy's called Marcus. So,
like the formality.
Yes.
A high praise for you, mate, in our household.
No, very much back to you as well. Obviously, like Bob mentioned, we never got to play together, but I've been probably a big admirer through just what I've known of you, and then who you are as a person. And obviously, you're standing at the football club. That the pleasure is certainly all ours to be having you on just for a little bit of a chat. And we're getting some big fish on this podcast, Bob. I'm really excited about this one. This is going to be great, particularly because of the history that you two have. Now this could be an opportunity for me I've got some popcorn here waiting, just ready to watch this can of worms just unpack.
Well, I just before he was a gun player, Bont, a great captain. I loved playing under him. Fierce competitor, Darce. Like during games.
Yep.
Trained very hard.
I have heard. Yep.
You're not going to go there, are you, mate? It's time to get over it. It's time. Can I just say, Bon, if I can get in first, it's just to say, like at the time of what I know he's alluding to, and when I get him once a month, I'll get a message saying I'm still speaking to my lawyers and I'm waiting for the compensation to get through. I'm being serious now, and at the time, mate, he was nowhere near revered as. If I had known that he was going to go on to be one of the all-time great, like, I might have had second thoughts about whacking him at the time. But at the time, can I say that there was a lot of people who actually thought it was a long time coming.
Hey, we're not in. You're not in the witness stand just yet.
He's feeling. I can just feel the temperature rising. I can feel the temperature. Let's cool the jets. I reckon.
It hasn't aged well, Vince.
We're in chat today. Hey, Darce, how is ISO life for the Darcys and for you work wise, and how's all that tracking along?
Well, mate, it's you're really feeling for everyone in the change of lifestyle and everyone adjusting accordingly, and your heart automatically. Anyone who's lost their jobs is heartbreaking. I'm really fortunate to be sitting here in the basement of my house, still doing a radio show that I've done for this is the 11th year. So talking to people every day and still having that going is a real bonus. Yeah. So I feel really grateful and privileged. And mate, the other side, and I'm interested to talk to you two about this. I'm loving the world slowing down from a family point of view. So you realise how 4 kids, you're driving them to sporting events so regularly, and now you're stopping and you're actually having these family dinners. You're out in the backyard playing with them more than you've ever played, and probably like a lot of other people, there's things that you haven't done. The chess sets come out, the conversations are being started. There's a few more blues than you would normally expect, Bon. I'm not sure what you were like with your sisters, but I've got 1 girl and 3 boys, and she turned 15 on Sunday, and they made a PowerPoint presentation, which they never would have done before because they wouldn't have had the time or thought about it, but they compiled the 100 worst photos of her life together to celebrate her 15th birthday. So there's a bit of good and there's a bit of evil coming out of the Darcy household, but I'm enjoying it.
I knew you'd have some interesting thoughts on this, Darce, because the context is important, isn't it? Around there's so many troubling things happening at the moment. The economy and the health crisis and people losing their jobs and the ripple effect of all of it, which is massive. But there is a silver lining to this as well, with lots and some of the stuff you've mentioned about people slowing down and doing things differently. And do you think the positives out of this time? Do you think they'll last, or do you think that after a matter of weeks or months or years that we'll go back to how things were? The tempo of life being as quick as what it was.
Look, I think there'll be a portion of the population, the creative thinkers, that will look back and go, wow, what an opportunity to actually be forced into a time where you had time to think. And then those ideas, some of them will stick, I'm sure, and won't go back. I called the last game of round 1 on Channel 7, the second last game, and we did it out of the studio in Docklands. Everyone's been reluctant for something like that to happen because you want to be on the ground, you want to get down the boundary line and speak to the great champions like the Bont. But I think the idea that you can now actually save on flights and still do a really good job and still creatively be able to come up with ideas, I think some of that is going to be lasting beyond this time as well. And look, I've even been noticing, just as I said to you earlier, just in that previous comment, the kids, I think we take on too much and we're too busy. 4 kids that play sport, and look at maybe if everyone peeled back a layer and slowed down and you had a bit of that time, I think there might be some opportunity for us all. Even in the footy industry, it's going through a change, whether we like it or not. I'd be interested in you guys as well. I think some of it will be really good. Some of it's going to be challenging, but I'm always a bit glass half full. I think out of this, you're going to get some ideas that are benefiting everyone going forward. So I hope that's the case.
Yeah. Yep, I agree in that sentiment. The thing I've probably noticed, I don't live with my family anymore, and I would regularly speak to them anyway. But what I probably found from a conversation point of view is the depth of conversation that you're getting to now with people, particularly because you don't have the daily, what did you do today, or the monotonous sort of conversation just around sort of details of things happening, but you actually start to get to the, deeper sides of things, and you're probably talking about whether it's feelings, emotions, and people I think will start to understand how good it can be to open up and talk about how you're feeling in these times, which I think will probably carry through, because people, I certainly feel that you're more comfortable about talking about things that are probably more important, but also have greater depth to them, about you and me and each other. So that's one thing I've certainly sort of noticed in the shorter term side of things.
I'd agree with that. So, Darce, the Barclay Street podcast, breaking news is not generally our sort of strong suit. We haven't had too many. But the universe works in mysterious ways. So I was sat in the backyard yesterday and had the kids on the trampoline. I had the fire going, and Justine was gardening. And I thought, I'm trying to organise this week's work. And thought, I'd get Darce on the podcast. Haven't had you on, and thinking, it's just time for us to have a chat and get you on, all those sort of things. And we organise it, and you just jump straight at it, which is true to your character. You're always keen to help a friend in need. And then a couple of hours later, it was relayed to me through someone else at the football club that you were about to take on a new role, and that would be sort of announced today. So do you want to tell us what that role is, and just touch on the serendipity of all that?
Yeah. No, thanks, mate. And look, I'm honoured again, and a little bit humbled to be. I came to the club in November '93, and Peter Gordon was the president at that time. And then to watch, as you got older and understood the amount of work, the club had just come out of the fight back in 1989. So that was really real. A lot of the players I was playing with back then, had gone through that, where it looked like the club was going to be merged into Fitzroy, and the stories of rattling the can around the streets, they were really fresh stories back then, mate. And I remember thinking, Peter was a fairly young, ambitious lawyer at that stage. I was thinking, how do you do that amount of contribution, that amount of work, and continue your normal life? And then David Smorgon came in, and to see it go back to Peter and to watch you guys win the flag over that period was just as satisfying a thing. And now to see the Bulldogs in this incredible, horrific time for financial, modelling in the world, to see the Bulldogs be one of the handful of clubs in the best position is one of the most incredible stories. So, when Peter reached out again and said, will you come on the board of the Bulldogs now, it's probably the worst and the best time in lots of ways. So to think you might be able to contribute a little bit at this stage. So, no, I'm really excited to be joining the board, and hopefully I can add something to the group and put back, because the place has given me so much over such a long time.
I imagine it's not a decision you would have arrived at quickly, Darce. That you're a methodical thinker, and did you sort of bounce it off a number of different people, or was it sort of a pretty quick reflex?
Well, it's interesting what Bont said. I'm lucky enough to have my dad around. Bont, who's in his well into his 70s, and I was a father-son, and you don't realise how often, I haven't done it for a while, but you pick up the phone, and I haven't done that in a decision-making process, and rang Dad, and just said, hey, what do you think? And his instinct was, you go and help out, of course, if you can contribute in any way. I suppose I always look through the lens for me, Murph, is around the balance of your family, and you being as good a dad as you can be, putting your time in getting the balance of your life out. And I suppose that's always been the reason why that would have been a challenge. None of that's gone away, but you feel like right now it's all hands on deck. It's extraordinary times, and you make the time to hopefully add something positive and help out the place. As I said, you always feel like when you've retired, that I owe so much more to the club than the club ever owes to me. I had the best time ever playing, the great friendships I've got with people like Bob. So it's an easy thing to feel like you can put something back if that's possible.
Yeah, I'm curious on that side of things. Obviously, throughout your career, you probably explored a number of different things, and when you get probably towards the back end, you're obviously looking to set yourself up after your career finishes. Had it always been something, and I know not everyone's like this, but had it always been something you'd thought about coming back to the football club in some capacity, especially being a captain? I don't know whether that had anything to do with it. And like you said, you felt like you're in a position where you potentially, own the club for all that you'd experienced throughout your time. Did you feel like at some point you would come back, or was this a matter of not stars aligning, but the timing being right?
That's a really interesting question, mate. I, to be honest with you, once I'd finished, I almost felt like that time had been done, and then you just, from afar, enjoy watching the next generation go about. I think what I'd underestimated was how fanatical my kids were going to be, how much it meant to them. And then, as I said, mate, I haven't spoken to you about this, but when you guys won it in 2016, it was, I couldn't believe how satisfying it was as a past player, and I thought there might have been this tinge of jealousy that I wish it had been us, and it was the opposite of that, mate. It felt like I'd been out there, and all of my mates from that generation, and we all felt like it was this satisfying thing, as it should be for the club. So I hadn't felt about going back in any role particularly. I never had an ambition to do that, because I love the fact that as soon as you finish playing, the world moves on, and I can remember, I can share the story with you, Bon. I'm a reluctant, I don't come down to the rooms or do any of that because I feel like it's not my time. But I did on this one day about 3 years after I'd finished playing, and I wanted, someone had asked me to bring a young kid down to the rooms, and the first person who saw me was none other than my friend Bob Murphy here. He said, "It's not about you, mate. Your time's up and you're pissed off." You nailed me in that moment as clearly as I've ever had. So I don't think I've been down the room since, but I'm back, Murph, so look out.
Well, I just want to. It's when you're not getting teased in a footy club. That's when you've got. That's when things are right. Can I just start just quickly? We've got a new segment we want to introduce today. Yes. So you're our guinea pig. But just what would your style be as a director on the board? So just as a scenario, the Dogs have been beaten in a real nail biter, and the skipper's had a poor one. The Bonts had a real poor day. He's been tagged out of it, and you're sort of standing there in the rooms after the game. What's your sort of style there? Will you have a sort of judgmental kind of look?
Yeah.
Well, it's horses for courses. When you're talking about the Bont and the once in a generation person he is, you get as far out of his way. And you know what? To be honest with you, if I could turn to serious for a moment, we had some great people that were involved at the club, and it was the ones that are always there, regardless. We know, how many times did we come off Murph in a game where you'd struggle? No one tries any less hard in those moments. So I think anything you can do to support, it's not. And I suspect you won't see too much of me because of other commitments as well. But had it been you, mate, I might have had the arms folded and standing at the race. There's a few stories we could share, from previous times. But maybe behind the scenes, Bont, I don't think you'll see too much of it.
Yeah. Well, Darce, for what it's worth, we're really rapt to have you on board. Club's lucky to have you. We know you'll have a massive impact, and it's good to have you back. Not that you ever really left, but it's really special to have you back in such a significant role. So well done, mate.
Thanks, mate. Really appreciate it.
I appreciate the exclusive for the podcast.
I can't believe it. I actually heard that you wanted to announce it here. I heard that it was a big thing of yours to announce it on the podcast, Barkley Street.
Well, it's funny you say that, Bont, because I do a radio show in Melbourne with Eddie McGuire, who likes to break a story from time to time. And, and I said, there's only one place this is going to go on the Bulldog podcast, #Barkley Street. It's not happening anywhere apart from with Bont and Murph. So I'm happy it played out that way.
Oh, that's good. So, Darce, this is our new segment. So in these times of quarantine and isolation, and even someone who's not as tactile as yourself, you're not a big hugger as much as some others, but
I'm growing on that front. If this is a secret sound, mate, I'm out of it.
So this segment's called Group Hug. So essentially, what it is, the Bont will ask you a question, I'll ask you one, and so we'll just go back and forth. But consider it these questions as like just two sets of big arms around you, just giving you a big Bulldog hug.
Right. Yep. I feel warm inside already.
This is good. So, Bont, do you want to kick us off?
I'm going to kick us off. And this should be a relatively easy one. I'm sure you'll see the temperature rise potentially as the questions go on. But the first one, I'm always curious to hear about from all players, but your memories from your debut and your first game, what are your most fond ones?
Yeah, I was at Waverley Park, Bont, the old ground, and started on the interchange bench. And Chris Grant was playing at South Ford, and I think Danny Frawley, the great Danny Frawley, who I became great friends with and still miss this day. I think he punched Granny in the back of the head, and Granny had to come off and with a mild sort of concussion. So I went on to Spud, who then threatened that he was going to knock me out in fairly quick succession. And those who work in the media with me will know that fairly inglorious start to my career, Bond. I don't think I registered a kick for the first 3 games. I didn't trouble the scorers too much, and I was dropped the very next week. But as you harshly, 2 really good handballs and a couple of shepherds were underrated. But like everyone, you never forget that moment.
Was that Joycey or was it Wheels?
That was Terry Wheeler had taken over my first game from Alan Joyce. Yeah, no, sorry, Alan Joyce. Sorry, Alan Joyce. I apologise. No, Alan Joyce, and then after Terry Wheeler. So yeah,
right. Righto, Darce. Question 2: does round 12, 2004 mean anything to you?
Nah, look, I've got no recollection or memory of. I played Leon Cameron's one of my great mates, Bont. You could say to him, "Tell us about round 6, 1996," and he would say, Scotty West had 21 possessions and kicked 3, and and this at a quarter time we're up by, like, he has got a savant-like memory. I couldn't tell you any game, any time, anywhere.
Well, I was doing a bit of I was crunching the numbers on your career, and you had a great career. We know that, but on that day we played St Kilda. We beat St Kilda, and you had 5 goal assists, which is a record. It's
that would be
Bulldogs. Yeah.
Yep.
Really?
Yeah. So there you go. So
thanks,
that's that's nice, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it sounds positive.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for the sledgehammer to come after that. I thought this was a group hug. I appreciate that. No,
it's a group hug. Yeah. So now we
like
just move on to the next stage. Bont, you got the next one.
Yep. This is one I'm incredibly curious about, and only know a really tiny morsel about. But whose idea was it to broadcast from your pub on Brownlow night?
Oh, mate, this is. I wonder who your scriptwriter is on this one, because it doesn't sound like out of your playbook. But this, it's funny. You get remembered for a couple of things in your life. One of them is allegedly hosting a party for myself at the Brownlow, and the other one is for building your co-host on the podcast here. And there's a backstory to both of them. I probably don't need to. But I was assured, Bont, that all 12 people who were in the market as favourites had a business that they were crossing to, and that you were going to be one of the 12. And in fact, you were the only one of the 12 that had refused to do it. As it turned out, that wasn't the case, Bont. It was just me. And you could imagine sitting there on that night, every time I didn't get a vote, crossing out to the pub that we'd just opened called the Anglers Tavern at the time. And I still get a text every Brownlow night from people like the idiot Murphy. You're throwing another party for yourself again this year. So again, that hasn't aged well either for me, fair to say.
I think, was it 2002? Was that the year? I think it was.
It was 2002,
yeah. Yeah, 2002. So I went to the pub. I think I went with
there,
Simon. Yeah, so I went there. And so Gallo and I were having a few beers and had something to eat and watching. And there was and we're all hoping that Darce would win it. Of course. Went in.
Could be the greatest party ever.
Yeah, it was a big chance to win it and all that. I've never really polled in Brownlows ever. And the one year that I polled a few votes is 2002. And every time I go,
snake them.
Western Bulldogs, Murphy, and then the whole room.
Well, there's nothing like football clubs to help you forget those times, are there? It'll never happen. They're perfect places for just that long-lasting guilt and embarrassment.
Yeah, that's right. And always bump into Simon Black and tell him that he did steal my Brownlow from me in 2002. He was a fairly average player, Simon Black, and it was a highway robbery.
Righto, Darce. Question 4. Did you attempt a group escape on a pre-season torture camp?
Well, this is a reflection, Bond, on perhaps my leadership capabilities. It was by far the most challenging thing I've ever done in my life, this camp, and Murph will remember it really well. And one of the moments I still remember turning around, having had 3 days without sleep. We were thrown into this. You can only describe it as the most densest, thick. It was a place called Mount Disappointment, aptly named. And I turned around. Brian Lake is crying, and he says, "You've got to look in my mouth." And a live leech had crawled under his lip, and two of us had to prise this leech out of his mouth. So there's a little bit of the tone for what was going on 3 days in, with a group of lunatics from the Special Operations Group of Victoria Police, and it was about challenging the group around, how will you stand up under pressure. So I grabbed all the guys together and said, "You know what? Let's get out of here. We'll call the camp off, and then we'll negotiate back. We're happy to do whatever they want, but let's make it us versus the Special Operations Group." So it wasn't necessarily a mutiny. I'm not doing this. It was. Yeah. I think I got one hand raised up. You're on your own, mate.
I was like, I was like,
you're with me. You're with me.
I was out.
One of my favourite thing about travel games is this. I swear this camp always comes up, and I've chatted to you about it a fair bit, Bob, because they don't happen, I don't think, anymore in today's football, and probably for good reason, and I'm very thankful for that. But some of my favourite football stories I haven't even experienced. It's of other people and what they've had to go through, and it makes me appreciate it. Yeah.
To give it context, so pre-season camp, if you're ranked, they're always hard.
Yeah.
Rank them 1 to 5. If 5's this one was the only year. If the others were 1 to 5, this was an 11 or a 12.
So it was a big outlier.
Physically, there's some post-traumatic stress there for a few of us.
Well done.
All right. Question. Actually, next one's
I think it's me. Yep. And this is the big dipper from me, I reckon. What is the most violent thing that you've done to one of your teammates?
Well, I'd like to say there's a long list, and there probably is, but like I think in the context of it, there's no way to justify it. Let's be honest. I've got a whole long-winded story around. But can I say the intent wasn't there to go out and whack your co-host at all. I was encouraged by our coach Rodney at the time he said, "Look, everyone's a bit friendly out here. I need you to start a fight." That's the instruction from the coach before this practice game. Everything's going well. I need you to start a fight. And I looked at him like, "You're a crazy man. Like, who's going to start a fight in an intra-club practice game?" And I said it to him. I said, "Mate, you're insane. What do you go, mate? I start a fight. I want to see how everyone responds." So I think it was about a quarter and a half into the trial game, and I'm still looking around going, everything's going well. Who do I start a fight? Right at that moment.
Two popped up.
You can hear. I can hear this. Did you pull out of that last contest, Bambi? I reckon you ducked it. You so it was just when you talk about the universe delivering righto. Now I've got the reason.
And that was the Hail Mary.
Perfect target. But my intention was, I'll give him just a little one under the ribs, and I'll throw him to the ground, and that'll be enough. But because of his sort of vision, out the side, you ducked. And ducked into, and so the moment it happened, I'll never forget. I remember just your mind went, "Oh my God!" And it would have been a 10-weeker bond. It should have been suspended for 10 weeks, but it was that bad. And as he went to the ground, I then thought, I've got to go on with this, because if I look like
in for a penny was next pound.
Will Minton was next on the scene, and I said, "Mate, and I'll knock you out as well, you big dumb German." And at that point, Rodney Eads looked over and gone, "He's actually officially lost it, Murphy," but I think you'll come back, mate. I'll always respect, because when you came to and worked out it was me, and the fact you wrote "coward" above my name on my locker, and that stayed there for the rest of my career, I think was a bit of summary justice. So, is that an apology or not? Is that?
It's close enough. I think
it'll work.
We can finally put it to rest, I reckon. We've milked it about as much as we possibly could.
I think so.
I'll give you just a little half volley outside off stump to finish, Darce, and then we'll get just a couple of fan questions and we'll let you go. The easiest, the standard question, but who was the best player you played with and played against?
Look, I think Granny always just jumps to mind coming into as a 17-year-old, and I think sometimes with time you forget, but what he did at St Arth back one year after having won the Brownlow by 5 votes the year before at St Arth 4 was a remarkable thing to do. It was just extraordinary the way he was able to compete and then play in every position on the ground, and some of the stuff that he just did regularly for us as a side just always stood out. Brad Johnson's career over such a long time, he started in a very similar fashion to the way you did, Bontempelli. He came in from day one. I was just raw and could hardly run around the tan, and he lobbed and was just this powerful, unbelievable player that was ready to go from day one. So those two in a bracket probably jump out. Granny is number one. And against, lucky enough to play in that era of so many great players, but who was the toughest against Murph? I had the great privilege of rucking against Windy from day one as well, first day of training. He was a Brownlow medalist, and he was 21 years of age at the peak of his powers. And I used to get to training and think, if I could win 1 out of 10 of these ruck contests, that's a start. That took me a while to win 1, and then to win 2. But it was a fairly intimidating area of the ruck, pre-centre circle, and your first game, Damien Monkhurst is 15 metres away running at you with no teeth, saying he's going to kill you. So it was a fairly, and Paul Salmon played through that era as an underrated ruckman that we rucked against, and I think that the list probably is a bit too long. If that's a long-winded answer, it was a pretty tough era.
No, mate, it gives us a nice little caption there. So we asked for some fan questions. We've probably gone a fair bit over time. So I'll just give you one that I think a lot of people remember and would want to know. And the question is from Jason MF. And he just asks, how did you handle commentating the closing stages of the 2016 prelim, which has been voted the second greatest game of all time on that Fox Footy list, I thought, the other day.
Yeah, mate, you started this segment, Group Hug, by saying I'm maybe not the most tactile or not a hugger, but I'm happy to report, Murph, with age, that is coming. And I think that moment surprised me by how much emotion there was attached to it, and you being out there and understanding that so clearly. But as an old Bulldog, walking into the ground that day, mate, and I still remember the emotion hitting you straight away. I was talking to people who'd been supporting the club for 50 years. They were there with their mum, who was in their 80s. There were dads that had got together with their brothers who'd not been to the footy but had to be there on that game. And it was just, as you walked in, there was this electric atmosphere, and then you had that feeling, oh no, we lost prelim finals. And Murph, I remember Murph really clearly at one stage. We're in one of our team meetings and go, mate, I'm sick of hearing about the prelim finals. You guys have lost. Move on. But it was all coming back to us at that stage, mate. We're going, geez, I hope this group don't lose one again. And you're trying to be impartial as a commentator, but really you weren't. You were just barracking flat out for the Bulldogs. But at the same time, Bont, probably my closest mate in football, one of my closest mates is coach at GWS, and his family I've holidayed with, and they're sitting to the side. So you're feeling all that at that stage. So when that moment happened and we won, you turn to the people, and the only person who was a Bulldog person in that room was Macca, the cameraman, and we looked at each other, and he just went over, and there's the group hug, man. So Macca and I, he probably never hugged me. I've never hugged him before or since, but you could feel the tears welling up in your eyes, and it was amazing. And then, interestingly, you walk out of that ground, and you're like, the Bulldogs are in a grand final. I think that's what I said in commentary. I can't believe it, the Bulldogs are in a grand final. And I walk out, and the first people I bump into are Leon's family, his wife, Kaz, and the 3 kids, and they're in tears, the other side of the emotion. So I don't think I've ever had so much emotion in a short period of time. But incredible game. My favourite game, I think, of that whole final series was amazing.
Yeah, it's a great sentiment to finish on. Great sentiment to finish the group hug segment on, I reckon, Bob.
Thanks for you couldn't have said it any better, Bont. Darce, thanks so much for coming on the show. And again, well done and congratulations on joining the board. Can't wait to see the contribution you make, and good to have Bulldogs people in and around. So thank you very much.
I love the group hug segment, boys. You're on to a winner, and as I said from the start, great honour to be contributing in some way, and always great to catch up with 2 of the all-time greats. Thanks for inviting me in.
Good on you, man.
Thanks, Darce. Appreciate it, mate. Stay well. See you later.
Speak soon. See you guys.